Imagine for a second that you are the CEO of a racing team, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
So you go out and you buy a multi-million-dollar Formula One car. I mean, you wrap it in your company's logo, you hire the absolute best driver in the world, you put them behind the wheel, and then, right before the green light hits, you take the gas tank and you just fill it with literal mud.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a rough image.
Right. But the thing is, right now, as we sit here in 2026, companies all over the world are doing exactly that. I mean, they are pouring billions of dollars into customer relationship management software, their CRMs, to build what they think is this ultimate revenue engine.
Yeah, the ultimate machine.
Exactly. But according to the data we are diving into today, like 80% of those highly tuned multi-million-dollar engines are running on mud.
It really is a phenomenal paradox when you just look at the raw numbers. I mean, we are talking about a global CRM market that is valued at I think it's $112.91 billion right now.
112 billion. That is
Yeah.
massive.
Massive. And the projections from our source material, they show it hitting $262.74 billion by 2032.
Wait, 262 billion?
Yeah. And you look at the adoption rates across industries, and it's essentially universal at this point.
Right, everyone has one.
Exactly. The tech sector is sitting at like 94% adoption, manufacturing is at 86%, even healthcare is at 82%, and 87% of these systems are entirely cloud-based now. So, this isn't just some niche piece of software sitting on a dusty server in a back room anymore.
No, of course not.
It is the default operating system for modern business.
Yeah.
Period.
And the justification for that massive spend, from what I'm seeing, is this promised return on investment. I mean, the industry benchmark we just keep seeing pop up in the research is that businesses earn an average of 8.71 cents for every single dollar they spend on their CRM.
Right, almost a 9x return.
Yeah. So you read those reports and you think, well, clearly we've figured it out. We have perfected the absolute science of customer management. But then you flip to the next page of the research and you just hit this dark underbelly of that $100 billion market.
The mud in the tank.
The mud. Because despite all this world-class technology, 80% of CRM data is categorized as inaccurate.
80%.
80%. And even more terrifying than that, 70% of revenue leaders admit they fundamentally do not trust their own CRM data.
Yeah.
I mean, how does a multi-billion-dollar industry operate when the people running it know they are basically flying blind?
Well, the root of the problem is that we are still culturally treating the CRM like it's a digital Rolodex.
Oh, like just an address book.
Exactly. Think about it. 20 years ago, if a phone number in your database was wrong, it was annoying, right? A sales rep dialed it, got a disconnected tone, swore under their breath, and just moved on. It was passive.
Yeah, it's just a static list.
But today, the architectural role of the CRM has completely shifted. I mean, it is now the central nervous system of the entire company.
So it's no longer just this passive container for names. It's like an active participant in how the business actually runs.
Precisely. The modern CRM is the foundational layer for hyper-automation. Think about everything that sits on top of it. I mean, you have automated marketing email sequences that trigger based on job titles.
Right.
You have complex lead routing rules that assign, high-value prospects to specific senior executives based on geography or company revenue.
Oh, yeah, those automatic assignment rules.
Yeah. And then you have predictive AI forecasting tools that the board of directors relies on to make massive, sweeping hiring and layoff decisions.
Wow. Okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah, all of that architecture assumes the underlying data is pristine. If that foundational data is flawed, if you are feeding mud into a highly efficient, automated system, you don't just get bad results.
You get catastrophic results.
Exactly. You get catastrophic results delivered at scale much, much faster.
That makes perfect sense. So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how to stop the engine from essentially tearing itself apart. We are going to hand you, the listener, the ultimate blueprint for building a high-performing revenue and relationship engine.
We really are.
Yeah, because we are synthesizing a mountain of sources today. I mean, ranging from deep technical comparisons of CRM cleaning and enrichment tools, all the way to behavioral psychology reports on sales gamification.
Which is fascinating, by the way.
Oh, it really is. And we even have a biomedical data management guide from Harvard in the mix. So we are breaking down the trifecta of a perfect CRM ecosystem. That's hygiene, which is scrubbing the mud, enrichment, which is turning that clean data into predictive intelligence,
Yeah.
and gamification.
Right, which is how you actually motivate the human beings operating the machine.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to start with pillar one, which is CRM hygiene, because The mud in the tank isn't just sitting there harmlessly, is it?
No, not at all. It is actively bleeding companies dry. Our sources point out that data decay is essentially a law of thermodynamics in the business world. They estimate that between 30% to 70% of contact data goes bad every single year.
Okay, I have to pause you right there because 70% decay in a single 12-month window sounds absurd to me.
It does sound high.
Yeah, I mean, how does a database rot that quickly? Are people just entering garbage on purpose?
No, no, it's not malice. It's just the sheer velocity of the modern workforce. I mean, think about the mechanics of a dynamic economy. In a given year, a massive percentage of the workforce changes jobs.
True, people bounce around a lot more now.
Right, people get promoted and their titles change. Companies get acquired, which means their email domains change entirely overnight.
Oh, right. Oldcompany.com becomes newcompany.com.
Exactly. Old server infrastructure is retired, so phone extensions just break. If you have this pristine database of 100,000 contacts on January 1st, and you simply do nothing like you literally lock it in a vault and open it on December 31st, you might have 70,000 useless records.
That is wild to think about. And the downstream consequences of that decay, from what I'm reading, they are brutal.
Oh, absolutely brutal.
Let's unpack the hidden costs outlined in the research here. So first, we're looking at 40% bounce rates on marketing email campaigns.
Which is huge.
It is. Now, for anyone who isn't a digital marketer, you have to understand that a bounce rate isn't just a vanity metric where you shrug and say, well, oh, well, they didn't get the email.
Right, it's not a harmless oops.
No. If you have a 40% bounce rate, you are triggering alarms across the entire internet.
That is a critical point because email service providers like Google and Microsoft, they are constantly monitoring sender reputation.
They need to be watching everything you send.
Yeah. So if you blast out an email to 10,000 people and 4,000 of those emails bounce back because the addresses are dead, Google's algorithms instantly flag your company's domain as a spammer.
Because they assume you bought a cheap, scraped list of garbage data.
Precisely. And once your domain reputation tanks, even your legitimate emails, I mean, the ones sent to actual paying clients, they start getting silently routed to their junk folders.
Wow. So a dirty CRM can literally destroy your company's ability to communicate with the outside world?
It can completely cut you off.
And it bleeds into advertising, too. I mean, the sources highlight massive wasted ad spend.
Oh, the ad spend waste is staggering.
Yeah. If your CRM says a prospect is a chief marketing officer, but they left that job 2 years ago to open a bakery, your automated systems are still serving them expensive B2B software ads on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you are paying premium ad rates to target a baker.
Exactly. And then you add the human cost to that. I mean, the research says sales reps are reportedly spending up to 70% of their time on non-selling tasks.
Right. They are basically acting as highly paid, highly frustrated data janitors.
Data janitors, I love that term.
Yeah, they spend their days just hunting down accurate phone numbers on Google instead of actually talking to clients.
And we haven't even touched on the brand damage of personalization fails. I mean, when an automated system pulls dirty data into an email template and a prospect receives a message that says, hi, first name, congratulations on your recent promotion to null.
The dreaded null.
It instantly vaporizes any trust. It just signals to the prospect that they are nothing more than a row in a neglected database.
It really does. It's embarrassing.
It is. So to stop this bleeding, our sources outline the 4 pillars of data health. That's standardize, deduplicate, cleanse, and enrich.
The core 4.
Right. But before we even get to the software that does the heavy lifting, the research insists we have to solve the human element first. We have to talk about the concept of a data governance plan.
I know. The phrase data governance plan sounds like a cure for insomnia.
It really does. It sounds like a 50-page corporate PDF that gets emailed out once, filed away, and literally never read.
Exactly. But at its core, governance is entirely about psychological ownership. I mean, the golden rule of data is that if everyone owns it, no one owns it.
That makes sense. If it's a shared responsibility, everyone assumes the other guy will fix it.
Exactly. So a governance plan simply draws hard borders. It dictates that sales reps own the accuracy of contact records in their active pipelines, period.
Okay.
Marketing operations owns the integrity of the inbound lead flow. Customer success owns the account information after the contract is actually signed.
Okay, this is where that Harvard biomedical data management source comes into play, and I found this part so fascinating.
It's a great crossover.
It is. We are taking a guide that is explicitly designed for scientific biomedical research, and we are applying its principles to a B2B sales team's CRM. At first glance, that just seems like a massive stretch.
It does seem like a stretch until you look at the underlying philosophy of scientific research. I mean, in the biomedical field, reproducibility is the highest law.
Meaning another scientist has to be able to copy your work.
Right. If a researcher at Harvard publishes a study on a new cancer drug, but a laboratory in Tokyo cannot take their exact raw data and reproduce the exact same results, the Harvard study is considered completely invalid.
Wow.
So to ensure that level of flawless communication, the scientific community relies on something called a data dictionary.
Okay, so define what a data dictionary actually is in a practical sense for us.
A data dictionary, which is sometimes called a code book in research, is a master document that defines the exact, immutable variable names, the formats, and the acceptable values for every single piece of data in a study. It just completely removes all ambiguity.
Okay, I get that for science. But applying them to a sales team tracking phone numbers, do we really need scientific rigor just to log a meeting?
You absolutely do, because business data is just as vital to the survival of a company as biomedical data is to a clinical trial.
That's a bold claim.
Let me give you a scenario. Let's say you have a company that is routing leads to different sales territories based on geography. If a rep in New York manually types in a new prospect's location, do they type US, USA, U.S.A. or United States?
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. If the automated lead routing system is programmed to look for the exact string United States and the rep typed USA, the system just throws an error.
Or worse than an error, it might just drop the lead into a black hole unassigned queue.
Yes. You could have a Fortune 500 company trying to buy your product, and the lead just sits there for 3 weeks because of a missing period in an abbreviation.
That is infuriating.
So a data dictionary in a business context establishes a single enforceable rulebook. It means the CRM administrator goes in and replaces those free text fields with hard-coded drop-down menus.
Oh, so you can't even type it wrong if you try.
Exactly. It means setting mandatory character limits on phone numbers. It means standardizing that every company name uses Inc. instead of typing out Incorporated.
Got it.
By establishing this rigid standardization right at the point of entry, you stop the bleeding. You prevent new mud from getting into the tank.
That makes a ton of sense. You lock down the front door. But setting the rules only stops future messes, right? I mean, it doesn't solve the problem of the historical mud.
The backlog.
Yeah, the hundreds of thousands of duplicate records and outdated contacts that are already just rotting inside the system. And that brings us to the scrubbing tools.
Yes, the cleanup crew.
We need to look at deduplication and cleaning technology in 2025 and 2026. Because trying to clean up historical data manually is basically a mathematical impossibility for a human team, isn't it?
It completely doesn't scale. Let's just walk through the mechanics of manually merging just one duplicate record in a major CRM like Salesforce.
Okay, take me through the pain.
A human admin has to run a duplicate report, open both records side by side on their screen, and then manually compare every single field.
Just scanning back and forth.
Yeah. And they have to say, okay, well, record A has a newer phone number, but record B has notes from a meeting last week. So the admin has to manually copy the notes over, select the surviving record, execute the merge, and then double check that all the related file attachments actually transferred properly.
That sounds miserable.
Even for an incredibly fast admin, that is a 10 to 20 minute process for one record.
Wow.
So if you have 10,000 duplicates, which by the way is actually on the low end for a mid-sized enterprise,
Yeah.
you are looking at over 1,500 hours of manual mind-numbing labor. You have to bring in automation.
Right. But as I was reading through the source material on these automated tools, I realized that handing your entire proprietary customer database over to an algorithm introduces a terrifying new problem.
It does.
Because before we even talk about the specific tools, we have to talk about the architectural divide in this software space. And that is native versus non-native applications.
This is honestly the most critical security conversation that most software buyers completely ignore.
Really? They just skip it.
They just look at the features and buy. But when you buy an app to clean your CRM, it will fall into one of two categories. A native app is built directly on top of the CRM's own proprietary architecture, like building an app on Force.com for Salesforce.
Okay, so it lives inside the house.
Exactly. It is delivered as a managed package that installs inside your environment. The code runs inside your walls. Your data never, ever leaves your CRM's secure servers.
Okay. And a non-native app?
A non-native app relies on its own external servers, so it has to pull your data out of your CRM, transmit it across the internet to their processing center, run the deduplication algorithms over there, and then push the clean data back into your system.
Okay, so to play devil's advocate here, why should a revenue operations manager care about the plumbing, right? I mean, if the data gets cleaned, who cares if it takes a quick trip to an external server? Isn't that just IT paranoia?
It's definitely not paranoia. It is entirely about crippling legal liability.
A legal liability, okay.
Let's say your company operates in the healthcare space, right? And you handle protected health information under IPA.
Yep.
Or maybe you sell software in Europe and you are bound by the strict data privacy laws of GDPR. Or perhaps your company just spent $1 million achieving SOC 2 compliance just to prove to enterprise clients that their data is safe.
Which is a huge deal for B2B companies.
Massive. So the second you authorize a non-native app to pull your entire database onto their external servers, you have introduced a massive, largely uncontrollable new risk vector.
Because you don't control their security.
Exactly. If that third-party vendor's server gets breached by hackers, your customer data is stolen, and you are legally responsible.
Wow.
With a native app, you are relying solely on the security infrastructure of the CRM itself, like Salesforce or Microsoft, which your legal and IT teams have already vetted and approved.
That is a brilliant distinction.
Yeah.
So looking at our sources, we have a diverse spectrum of tools taking different philosophical approaches to this problem.
Yeah.
Let's start with no duplicates, which the sources highlight as a prime example of a 100% native application.
Yes. So no duplicates operates entirely inside the CRM, which immediately solves the compliance and security headaches we just discussed.
Love that.
But what makes it really interesting from a functional standpoint is how granular it gets with automation. Because when you are merging thousands of records automatically, you can't just smash them together blindly.
Right, you'd scramble the data.
Yeah. So no duplicates offers over 24 distinct auto-merge strategies.
Break down what a merge strategy actually looks like mechanically. Like, give me an example.
Sure. It basically means giving the algorithm surgical instructions on how to handle conflicting data on a field-by-field basis.
Okay.
For example, you can tell the system, hey, when merging 2 records for the job title field, always keep the value that was updated most recently.
Okay, that makes sense. The newest job title wins?
Right. But for the unstructured notes field, do not overrate anything concatenate the text.
Concatenate.
Yeah, meaning stack the notes from both records on top of each other so we don't lose any historical context. It allows the CRM admin to dictate the exact logic of the merge without requiring a human to actually click the buttons.
Now, contrast that surgical native approach with a massive player in the non-native space.
Yeah.
Cloud and Go.
Yeah.
Because they require data to leave your server, they have to offer something incredibly compelling to justify that risk, right?
And they really do. Cloud and Go's major architectural differentiator is their undo merge feature.
Oh, a safety net.
Exactly. When you are dealing with automated bulk data manipulation, the biggest fear an admin has is making a mistake.
I would be terrified.
Imagine setting up an automated rule that you think is brilliant, you hit run, and 20 minutes later you realize your rule was flawed and you just incorrectly merged 5,000 distinct accounts together.
I would probably just quit my job on the spot.
You might have to. In a standard system, that data is scrambled forever. But Cloud and Go acts as a time machine. It keeps a cached backup on their external servers, allowing you to literally hit an undo button and roll the database back to exactly how it looked before you ran the job.
Wow.
For a lot of enterprise teams, having that safety net is worth the compliance hurdles of a non-native app.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now that brings us to Data Groomer, which takes a completely different path. While the other tools rely on rigid rule-based logic, where a human has to program exactly what constitutes a duplicate, Data Groomer leans heavily into machine learning and AI.
Yeah, traditional deduplication is very literal. If you write a rule that says, find records where first name and last name match exactly, it will catch 2 records for John Smith.
Right.
But human data entry is incredibly messy. So Data Groomer uses machine learning to execute what's called fuzzy matching.
Okay, we hear the term fuzzy matching thrown around constantly in tech. What is the actual mechanism there? How does a computer understand fuzzy?
It essentially comes down to calculating mathematical distance between strings of text. A really common method is called the Levenshtein distance.
The Levenshtein distance.
Yeah.
Sounds fancy.
It is. The algorithm calculates the minimum number of single-character edits like insertions, deletions, or substitutions required to change one word into the other.
Okay, give me an example of that.
So if one record says Jonathan Doe at Intel Business Machines and another says John Doe at IBM, a rigid rule would never ever see them as a duplicate.
No, the letters are totally different.
Exactly. But the fuzzy matching algorithm calculates the structural similarities, cross-references, common abbreviations like IBM, and determines with a high degree of mathematical probability that these are the exact same human being.
That's amazing.
It is. The trade-off, though, is that you are trusting a black box AI to make the connection rather than a transparent rule. But it catches the messy, nuanced duplicates that human rules always miss.
And if data groomer is a scalpel, then demand tools, which is another non-native option in our sources, sounds like a massive industrial snowplow.
That is the absolute perfect analogy. Demand Tools is not known for having the prettiest user interface, and the learning curve is notoriously steep.
Right, it's not super user-friendly.
No, it's built for data scientists. But if you have a database of 10 million records, and you need to execute a massive structural normalization, like, say you need to convert every single variation of a state name from Caliph to California into a standardized two-letter CA code across the entire database simultaneously. Demand Tools handles that scale and complexity without crashing.
Wow. We also have tools blending the line between cleaning and enriching, like LinkFinder AI and InCycle. InCycle seems built heavily around recurring operational templates, while LinkFinder AI focuses on finding missing emails and bulk enrichment via CSV files, and they boast really high accuracy.
Yeah, those are great workflow tools.
But honestly, as I look at all these third-party tools, I have to play the skeptic for a minute.
Okay, hit me.
If I am a business owner, I am already paying tens of thousands of dollars a year for Salesforce or HubSpot. Why on earth do I need to buy secondary software to do what the CRM should inherently do? Doesn't Salesforce have built-in duplicate catchers?
I love that you asked that because it's the most common pushback from executives, and it fundamentally misunderstands what native CRM features actually do.
Okay, enlighten me.
Yes, platforms like Salesforce have built-in duplicate rules and matching rules, but those native features are almost entirely preventative.
Oh, they just stop new ones.
Exactly. They are designed to throw up a red warning sign on the screen when a sales rep is manually typing in a brand new lead that the system recognizes as a potential duplicate.
So it stops the new mud from entering the tank.
Right. What the native CRM does not do is retroactively hunt down the 10,000 duplicates that were created 5 years ago by some intern, calculate how to resolve the conflicting data fields based on complex logic, and automatically merge them in bulk while you sleep.
I see.
For the historical cleanup, you have to buy the specialized tools.
Okay, so let's assume we've done the hard work. We've audited the system, we've run the fuzzy matching algorithms, we've merged the duplicates, and we've enforced our data dictionary. The CRM is finally clean.
Spotless.
But here is a depressing reality. A perfectly clean CRM is just a digital phone book. I mean, the formatting is flawless, but it doesn't actually tell you anything predictive about your customers. We have a clean engine, but the tank is completely empty.
We need fuel.
We need to fill it with high-octane fuel. And that brings us to pillar 2, data enrichment.
Yeah, if data hygiene is the process of fixing what is broken, data enrichment is the process of adding what is missing.
Okay, I like that framing.
It is taking a very thin, two-dimensional contact record. Maybe you just have a person's name and their corporate email address and layering vast amounts of third-party intelligence on top of it. You are turning a flat record into a deep, multi-dimensional profile.
And the sources are very clear that we have to distinguish between B2B and B2C enrichment here, because the data you are hunting for is fundamentally different depending on who you actually sell to.
Absolutely. I mean, if you are in B2C, business to consumer, your enrichment strategy is focused on individual human behavior.
Like what they buy on the weekends.
Right. You are layering on demographic data, household income brackets, past purchase history across different retail channels, and lifestyle indicators. But if you are in B2B, business to business, the focus shifts entirely to firmographics and technographics.
Okay, unpack those terms for me, because firmographics sounds like something a management consultant just made up in a boardroom. What actual data points are we talking about?
Firmographics are simply the demographics of a corporation.
Okay.
So you are enriching the record with the company's annual revenue, their exact employee headcount, their year-over-year growth velocity, and their industry classification codes.
Got it. And technographics.
Technographics is even more fascinating. Enrichment tools can literally scrape the public-facing internet architecture of a company's website to see exactly what software they are running.
Wait, really? You can just see what they use?
Yes. So your CRM can tell you, oh, this prospect company currently uses Shopify for their storefront, they use Stripe for payments, and they just installed Zendesk for customer service last month.
That is wild.
Knowing a company's exact tech stack before you ever pick up the phone gives a B2B sales rep a massive tactical advantage.
I bet. So let's look at the arsenal of enrichment tools driving this intelligence. The sources start with the absolute enterprise behemoth in the space, ZoomInfo.
ZoomInfo is the 800-pound gorilla of B2B data. I mean, they have spent years aggregating one of the most massive comprehensive databases of company and contact information on the planet.
They just have everything.
They really do. If you need incredibly deep organizational charts like knowing exactly who reports to who inside a Fortune 500 company, ZoomInfo has it. Their intent data is also industry-leading. But that scale comes with a highly premium enterprise price tag and complex annual contracts.
Right, it's not for a startup.
No, it is generally built for large-scale revenue teams that need continuous automated enrichment workflows deeply wired into their entire tech stack.
On the other end of the interaction spectrum, though, we have Clearbit, which has a fascinating approach to real-time inbound enrichment.
Clearbit solves a massive psychological problem in marketing, which is form friction.
Form friction. Tell me about that.
If you want someone to download a white paper on your website, but your form requires them to fill out 10 different fields, their name, company, job title, industry, phone number, they are just going to close the tab.
Oh, 100%. I never fill those out. It's too much work.
Exactly. But Clearbit operates silently in the background. You can put a form on your site that only asks for one single thing: their corporate email address.
Yes, the email.
Just the email. The millisecond the user types jane@acmecorp.com, Clearbit's API takes that domain, searches its massive database in real time, and instantly populates your CRM with over 100 distinct data points about Jane and Acme Corp.
That feels like magic.
It really does. It removes the friction for the buyer while giving your sales team a flawlessly complete profile.
You mentioned an API there. For the non-developers listening, what does an API-first approach actually mean mechanically? Because our sources also highlight People Data Labs as an API-first enrichment solution.
Okay, think of an API, an application programming interface, like a digital waiter in a restaurant.
A digital waiter. Yeah.
You are sitting at a table, which is your proprietary software, and you want a very specific meal from the kitchen, which is the massive database of People Data Labs. You don't walk into the kitchen and start digging through the fridge yourself.
No, they'd coop you out.
Right. The API is the waiter. You hand the waiter a specific request, a JSON payload saying, find me all software engineers in Chicago who know the coding language Python.
Got it.
The API takes that request to the database, retrieves exactly those records, and serves them back to your software in a standardized format. So an API-first tool like People Data Labs isn't selling you a flashy dashboard. They are selling your engineering team the raw pipelines to pipe their massive data sets directly into whatever custom application your company is building.
That is incredibly clear. Thank you for that. Now, while ZoomInfo and Clearbit rely on massive pre-aggregated databases, there is a fundamental flaw with that model, which is data staleness.
Yes. Databases age quickly.
Right. If a database was last updated 6 months ago, Jane might not work at Acme Corp anymore. That's where tools like Super AGI and Seamless.ai come in, leveraging AI for real-time verification.
Exactly. This is the next evolution of enrichment. Instead of just querying a static, aging database, tools like Seamless.ai use artificial intelligence algorithms to actively crawl the web, cross-reference social profiles, news mentions, and corporate directories in real time.
Wow, so it's searching while you wait.
At the exact moment you request the data, the AI is verifying that the email address is still active and the job title is still accurate. They boast 95% plus accuracy because they are authenticating the data dynamically rather than relying on historical snapshots.
And we absolutely cannot talk about data enrichment without talking about compliance, because the legal landscape around data privacy is terrifying right now.
It is a minefield.
Yeah. And that brings us to Cognism.
Cognism has built their entire brand identity around being the compliance king. If you are operating heavily in European markets, you are bound by the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR.
Which has massive fines.
Massive. And if you are in California, it's the CCPA. These laws are fiercely enforced, and the fines for holding illegally acquired personal data can literally bankrupt a company. So Cognizant has engineered their data collection architecture to ensure strict, legally defensible adherence to these privacy frameworks.
So they basically act as a legal shield for your data.
Exactly. They provide the peace of mind that every single phone number and email address you enrich your CRM with was acquired legally, and that the person has not opted out of communications globally.
We also have Leadfeeder in the mix, which solves a very specific, almost magical problem: identifying the invisible people browsing your website.
Yeah, most website analytics just tell you that, 100 people visited your pricing page today.
Which is useless for a sales team.
Completely useless. Only a tiny fraction of those people will ever fill out a form and identify themselves. So Leadfeeder uses complex IP address resolution and behavioral analysis to figure out which corporations those anonymous visitors belong to.
Oh, that's clever.
So instead of knowing that someone looked at your site, Leadfeeder tells your CRM, someone from the headquarters of Microsoft spent 20 minutes reading your pricing page this morning.
That is a game changer. It turns invisible anonymous traffic into a highly targeted list for your outbound sales reps.
Exactly. It's a massive advantage.
Now, here's where this entire deep dive gets really interesting, because the internet is fundamentally changing as we speak. We are moving rapidly into a post-cookie world.
We are indeed.
For the last decade, marketers have relied on third-party cookies, these little pieces of tracking code, to silently follow users around the internet and see what they're interested in. But privacy laws and web browsers are killing the third-party cookie. So how does enrichment work when you can no longer track people?
It is a seismic shift, and it has led to the explosion of modern intent data. Without third-party cookies, you can't casually follow an individual from a news site to a competitor's website anymore.
Right.
So to survive, enrichment tools are now using complex natural language processing, or NLP, and AI to predict buying behavior without violating individual privacy.
Okay, I want to push back on this because it sounds like a contradiction. How can you legally predict what I want to buy without tracking my personal behavior? It sounds like corporate mind reading.
It definitely feels like mind reading, but the mechanism is actually based on macro-level content consumption, not individual surveillance.
Okay, explain that.
Let's break down how natural language processing works here. Enrichment vendors partner with thousands of B2B websites, review forums, and industry publications. When users visit those sites, the NLP algorithms aren't just noting the URL, they are mathematically analyzing the actual text on the page to understand the context.
Oh, so it reads the article.
Exactly. They can tell the difference between an article about the history of supply chain management and an article comparing the best supply chain software vendors in 2026.
So it understands the difference between casual academic reading and active buyer research.
Yeah. Now, instead of tracking an individual person, the system aggregates this contextual data at the company level using IP addresses.
I see.
So the intent data doesn't say John Smith is looking to buy software. It says the IP addresses associated with Acme Corps' headquarters have suddenly consumed 400% more content related to supply chain software reviews in the last 48 hours.
Wow.
That is an intense signal. It allows your sales team to reach out to the VP of operations at Acme Corps at the exact moment they are experiencing a pain point and actively researching a solution, rather than just cold calling them randomly 6 months too late.
That is staggeringly powerful.
It completely changes outbound sales.
So let's take a breath and look at what we've built in our blueprint so far. We have executed Pillar 1. Our CRM is perfectly clean, scrubbed of duplicates, standardized by a strict data dictionary.
Check.
We have executed Pillar 2. We have filled that clean engine with predictive, enriched data, verified in real time, and layered with NLP-driven intent signals.
Check.
The machine is flawless. The Formula One car has premium fuel and is ready to race.
Okay.
But there is one wild card left, the single most unpredictable variable in business: the human beings actually operating the machine.
And human beings are notoriously difficult to optimize.
To say the least.
You can have the most predictive intent data in the world, but if your sales reps are burned out, if they are afraid of rejection, if they just simply aren't picking up the phone or writing the emails, the entire system grinds to a halt.
Which brings us to Section 5, Pillar 3, gamification, and the complex psychology of selling. Because the data shows we are facing a massive motivation crisis. According to our sources, 52% of sales leaders report that their team engagement is critically low.
It is an absolute grind out there. Sales is one of the only professions where you can do your job perfectly, say all the right things, and still face rejection 90% of the time.
Yeah, that wears on you.
It really does. To combat that psychological attrition, the market has turned heavily to gamification. I mean, we are looking at a market valued at $19.42 billion in 2025, and it is projected to explode to $92.5 billion by 2030.
Nearly $100 billion just for games.
It is a massive industry dedicated entirely to turning routine, soul-crushing CRM activities into engaging competitions with points, badges, leaderboards, and rewards.
But there is a massive counterintuitive danger here. And this was the biggest aha moment for me in the research. We have a study from the Italian Journal of Marketing that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that gamification can actually reduce revenue if you incentivize the wrong things.
This is arguably the most important takeaway of this entire deep dive. Gamification is not a magic wand, it is an amplifier.
An amplifier.
Yes, if you amplify the wrong behavioral pathway, you will actively sabotage your own business. The Italian study is a perfect example of neurological backfiring.
Okay, walk me through what they actually found.
They studied a consumer context where users were given gamified rewards like points and badges simply for adding items to a digital wish list. The hypothesis was that encouraging wish lists would lead to more sales. But the exact opposite happened. Revenue actually decreased.
That makes no logical sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm building a wish list of things I want, shouldn't I be more likely to buy them? Why did sales go down?
It all comes down to how dopamine pathways work in the human brain.
Oh, we're getting into neuroscience now.
A little bit. When you want something, your brain creates a state of psychological tension. The natural resolution to that tension, the dopamine release, comes from purchasing the item.
Right, the thrill of buying it.
But the gamified system hijacked that pathway. By rewarding the user with points, confetti, and social validation just for clicking Add to Wish List, the system provided a microdose of dopamine early.
Oh.
It prematurely resolved the psychological tension. The user felt the satisfaction of the game and no longer felt the burning need to actually spend their money.
That is fascinating. So how does that apply to a sales team?
In a corporate sales context, if you design the game poorly, you will accidentally encourage your reps to game the system for points, satisfying their psychological need for achievement to the detriment of actually closing real revenue.
That is terrifying. It means you are literally programming your employees to fail. And our sources outline 6 failure patterns of gamification, like a graveyard of good intentions that companies fall into. Let's walk through these because they are critical.
They are.
Number 1, fuzzy scoring rules.
Human beings have a highly attuned radar for unfairness.
You really do.
If the sales ranks don't understand exactly how the points are mathematically calculated, like if the manager is just arbitrarily handing out points for hustle, the reps will instantly assume the system is rigged.
And the moment they think it's rigged, they check out.
Permanently, transparency is non-negotiable. The rules must be immutable. If you log a completed cold call, it is exactly 5 points. If you book a qualified meeting, it is exactly 50 points. The math has to be universally visible and trusted.
Number 2, winner takes all prizes.
This is a classic management mistake. Say you have a team of 20 reps, and leadership announces a month-long contest where the single top performer wins a massive cash prize or a trip to Hawaii.
Sounds motivating in theory.
In theory, but what happens is that by day 3, the top 2 alpha performers pull ahead on the leaderboard. The other 18 reps look at the math, realize they mathematically cannot catch up, and they mentally quit.
Oh, so the contest just becomes a spectator sport for the bottom 90% of your team.
Exactly. To fix this, you have to design tiered rewards. You need a prize for the top performer, sure, but you also need a prize for most improved week over week, or a milestone prize where anyone who hits a specific baseline gets a reward. You have to keep the middle of the pack engaged.
Number 3, irrelevant rewards.
This is incredibly damaging to morale because it signals that leadership is completely disconnected from reality.
Give me an example.
If you ask a top-performing rep to grind out an extra 20 hours a week to win a contest, and the grand prize is a $25 gift card to a coffee shop, it is deeply insulting.
Yeah, that would make me furious.
It tells the rep that their immense effort is only worth pennies to the company. The perceived value of the reward must match the psychological effort required to attain it.
Number 4, quest overload.
This induces pure decision fatigue. A manager reads a book on gamification and just goes crazy.
Gamify everything.
Yeah. A rep logs into their CRM on Monday morning and sees 3 simultaneous team contests, an individual points leaderboard, a complex badge achievement track, and a daily pop-up sprint.
That's exhausting just hearing it.
It is way too much cognitive load. The rep won't know what to focus on, so they will ignore all of it. The rule is simplicity. One primary metric and maybe one short-term side challenge. That's it.
Number 5, point deductions, which relies on loss aversion.
Some software platforms offer features where you can actually deduct points from a rep if they miss a daily target.
That sounds incredibly toxic.
Using this in a corporate environment is a terrible idea. Gamification only works when it relies on voluntary, enthusiastic engagement. If you use this system to punish people, or if you display a bottom 3 performers list on a giant TV in the middle of the sales floor, you are managing through fear and public shaming.
Which destroys psychological safety.
It kills morale instantly. Gamification must be exclusively additive. You coach underperformance privately behind closed doors. You celebrate success loudly and publicly.
I love that rule. And finally, failure pattern number 6, which is the exact point where this entire deep dive ties together, gamifying bad data.
This is the fatal flaw. Imagine a rep is grinding to win a most dials made contest.
Right.
But your CRM hasn't been cleaned. It's filled with the mud we talked about in Pillar 1.
Oh no.
The rep is dialing outdated, disconnected phone numbers for 3 hours just to hit their daily point quota. They know the data is bad, but they are trapped in the game.
That is tragic.
Gamifying bad data creates a leaderboard that fundamentally lies. It forces your best people to waste their talent performing useless actions, which breeds deep resentment toward leadership.
So looking at all these failures, what is the golden rule? I mean, if I am a RevOps leader, how do I design a game that actually works?
The overarching architectural rule is that you must gamify behaviors, not outcomes.
Behaviors, not outcomes. Okay.
An outcome is something you ultimately cannot control, like a prospect actually signing a contract or total revenue booked. A prospect might back out because of sudden budget cuts. The rep can't force them to sign.
Right.
If you only reward outcomes, you frustrate reps who are doing everything right but just getting unlucky. A behavior, however, is entirely within the rep's control. A behavior is the number of discovery calls they completed, the number of outbound emails they wrote, or the amount of new pipeline they generated.
I really like this framework. It's almost like evaluating a professional basketball player.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
If you only reward a player for the final points they put on the scoreboard, the outcome, you end up incentivizing ball hogs who take terrible, selfish shots. But if you reward the underlying behaviors, like taking high percentage shots, playing tight defense, passing the ball to the open man to rest, the outcome, which is winning the game, naturally takes care of itself.
That is exactly how you have to view it.
But I have to ask the skeptical question. I look at these gamification platforms, and a lot of it is, digital badges and animated confetti exploding on a screen. Does confetti really motivate a 40-year-old adult professional? It sounds a bit juvenile.
It's a very fair critique, and honestly, it's one a lot of executives have. But
Yeah.
what you have to realize is that the software, the confetti, the digital trophies, the TV leaderboards, is simply the delivery mechanism.
Okay.
The psychological driver isn't actually the confetti. It is the universal human desire for recognition. It is about the visibility of effort.
Visibility.
In a normal office, a rep might make a brilliant cold call that saves a massive deal, and nobody sees it. Gamification software takes that invisible effort and broadcasts it to the entire company in real time. It is the design of the incentive structure that changes the behavior. The software just makes that design unavoidable.
Okay, that reframes it completely for me. So let's look at the actual rollout. Let's move to the gamification arsenal and the rollout playbook. Because the sources are very adamant that you do not just swipe a credit card and buy the software on day one.
If you buy gamification software on day one, you will fail. The playbook dictates a highly iterative approach.
How does that look?
For weeks 1 and 2, you test the psychological concept with zero software. You pick one single metric like meetings booked. You track it manually in a simple spreadsheet. You post daily updates in a Slack or Microsoft Teams channel.
Just bare bones.
Extremely bare bones. You have to prove that your specific incentive structure actually motivates your specific team in reality, not just in theory.
That makes sense.
If the spreadsheet test works, then in weeks 3 and 4, you bring in a dedicated software tool to automate the tracking and scale it up. And by month 2, you must introduce the concept of seasons.
Seasons, like in a video game.
Exactly. You have to rotate the metrics, change the visual themes, and alter the prizes. If you run the exact same contest for 6 months, the novelty wears off completely and it just becomes background noise.
So let's look at the tools you might evaluate when you hit week 3. The sources highlight several distinct platforms here. Sales Screen seems to be the classic high-energy option.
Sales Screen is built for the traditional, loud, high-energy sales floor. Its core strength is broadcasting.
Like putting it on the big screens.
Yeah, it powers massive TV leaderboards mounted on the walls. When a rep closes a deal, Sales Screen triggers custom animations and literally blasts their personal walk-up music across the office.
Oh, wow, walk-up music.
If you have an in-office culture that thrives on visceral public celebration, this is the tool.
Then there's Ambition, which takes a much more complex structural approach.
Ambition is an enterprise-grade platform. It goes far beyond just displaying points. It leans heavily into complex mechanics, like a fantasy football-style feature where sales managers can draft teams of reps and compete head-to-head over a quarter.
That was intense.
It is. It has incredibly deep integrations with Salesforce and includes robust management coaching workflows. It is highly powerful, but it requires a dedicated administrator to set it up. It is not something a 5-person startup just implements over the weekend.
Right. But the reality of work has changed, hasn't it? A lot of sales teams aren't in a loud office anymore. They're working from their living rooms. For remote or hybrid teams, the sources point to a tool called Spinify.
Spinify solves a very modern psychological problem. If you rely on a TV leaderboard in the headquarters, the remote reps feel completely invisible.
Because they can't see the TV.
They don't hear the bell ring when a deal closes. They feel completely disconnected from the culture. So Spinify acts as the remote equalizer. It has incredibly deep integrations with communication tools like Slack and Microsoft Teams.
Oh, bringing it to where they already are.
Exactly. It pushes real-time notifications, daily winter recap emails, and mobile app updates. It ensures that a rep working alone at their kitchen table feels the exact same rush of recognition and competitive energy as the person sitting in the corporate headquarters.
I also want to highlight GuideFlow, which the sources mentioned because it handles a completely unique use case. It's not about gamifying cold calls at all.
Right. GuideFlow applies gamification mechanics to training and onboarding.
That's smart.
For companies selling highly complex B2B products, ramp time, which is the time it takes a new hire to learn the product and become profitable, can easily be 8 to 10 months.
That's a long time to not be making money.
GuideFlow uses interactive, click-through product demos and turns product mastery into a gamified challenge. Reps earn points for completing training modules, mastering the technical narrative, and navigating simulated software environments before they are ever allowed to speak to a real customer.
So it uses gamification to accelerate learning rather than just accelerating activity?
Beautifully put, yes.
And for teams that are on a tight budget or just want to run that initial automated test without committing to a massive enterprise contract, we have Plecto and Pointogram.
Plecto is a fantastic mid-tier option focused heavily on pure data visibility. They allow you to build beautiful, highly customized KPI dashboards that aggregate data from multiple systems, not just your CRM, but your phone system and your marketing tools, putting all the metrics on one screen.
And Pointogram.
Pointogram is the lightweight champion. It's incredibly inexpensive, perfect for a small team that just wants basic points, leaderboards, and digital badges without needing a degree in software administration to run it.
So we have walked through the entire ecosystem. We have explored the relentless hygiene of cleaning the data. We have unpacked the AI-driven mechanics of enriching that data with intent signals. And we have explored the intricate psychology of gamifying the humans who actually use it. And this brings us to the ultimate synthesis of this deep dive. If there's one critical insight you take away from all these sources, is the sequence of execution.
The sequence is everything. It is a completely interdependent ecosystem. Each pillar relies entirely on the structural integrity of the pillar beneath it.
You can't skip steps.
You cannot. If you try to jump straight to the fun part, if you buy a gamification platform to force your reps to make more calls, but you haven't executed Pillar 1 and Pillar 2, you are incentivizing your team to interact with garbage.
Right.
You are paying them to dial disconnected numbers. You will destroy their morale.
Exactly. So what does this mean for you, the listener? Whether you are a solo consultant prepping for a client meeting or the VP of revenue operations at a Fortune 500 company trying to fix a broken quarter, you have to build the machine in order.
100%.
You must enforce your data dictionary to standardize inputs. You must utilize native or non-native tools to surgically scrub the historical duplicates. You must leverage AI and NLP to enrich those pristine records with predictive intent data.
And then, and only then,
only when the tank is filled with premium fuel do you build the gamification engine on top of it to motivate the driver. That is the ultimate blueprint for a high-performing CRM.
It requires relentless discipline, but when you align those three pillars perfectly, the CRM stops being a passive filing cabinet. It truly becomes an engine that generates predictable, scalable revenue.
And I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over, something to think about as you look at your own CRM dashboards tomorrow morning.
Oh, you're there.
We've spent this entire time talking about the psychology of gamifying human behavior, right? We've talked about dopamine loops and motivating sales reps to make more calls. But look at the trajectory of the technology we just discussed.
Move fast.
With the rapid explosion of AI agents,
Yeah.
I mean, software that can now autonomously make realistic phone calls, read intent data to write hyper-personalized emails, and negotiate meeting times entirely on their own. In 3 or 4 years, will we be designing gamification leaderboards for our AI? Will we pit one sales algorithm against another to see which one wins the week? Or will the CRM just become a silent, perfectly clean, closed-loop machine that runs itself while we sit back and simply watch the revenue numbers tick up on a screen?
It is a profound shift to consider. When the human element is completely removed from both the data entry and the execution, what exactly is left for us to manage?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. But one thing is certain. Whether it's a human being or an AI algorithm doing the work, neither of them can diagnose the health of your business if the data is blurry.
Very true.
You have to fix the X-ray machine, you have to clear up the diagnostic muddy waters, keep your data brutally clean, enrich it with predictive intelligence, and design systems that reward the right behaviors. Until next time, thanks for taking the deep dive.